Welcome to the deep dive. Hey, you're looking for critical health insights, like what we're tackling today with high blood pressure symptoms? You should definitely check out mindexpansiondaily.com. Seriously, head over there. And while you're at it, hit that like and subscribe button. Join our community. We're all about exploring wellness and, well, prevention. Oh, and if you find this stuff valuable, really helpful, maybe consider buying us a coffee. There's a link right there in the description. It helps us keep this going. So today we're diving into, the silent world of hypertension. That's what they call it. Our mission, really, is to unpack this thing, high blood pressure. Why are the symptoms so tricky to spot? And why is catching it early just so critical? I'm actually going to start us off with a little challenge for myself. I'm going to try and list the main symptoms of high blood pressure just off the top of my head. No peeking. We'll see how my gut feeling stacks up against the actual medical facts. And hey, we really want you in on this conversation. Share your own experiences with hypertension, if you have any, down in the comments.
And tell us where you're listening from. Let's see how far Mind Expansion Daily can reach. Help us grow worldwide.
That's a great way to kick things off. And honestly, it's a super relevant challenge for everyone. Because what's really kind of mind-blowing about high blood pressure or hypertension is just how widespread it is. It quietly affects nearly half of all adults in the U.S. That's something like 116 million people. And the consequences, they're serious. It contributes to almost 700,000 deaths every year from things like heart disease and stroke. It really earns that nickname, the silent killer. Why? Because most of the time we're talking about 70% of cases, according to the American Heart Association, there are no symptoms, none at all, which means diagnoses often come late, after complications have already started, things that could have been prevented. So this deep dive, it's about giving you the knowledge that could honestly be a game changer for your health.
Okay. Let's really get into it then. My turn. I'm opening the mental knowledge bank. Now let's see. All right, here are my best shots at the most common symptoms. I'll just throw a few out there, okay? Then we can, pick them apart. First thing that comes to mind, headaches. Like those frequent pounding ones, maybe like a tight band around your head, especially noticeable in the morning maybe. Okay then. Dizziness, feeling lightheaded, a bit woozy. Like you might faint if you stand up too fast or something. I'd also guess. Nosebleeds. Random ones. The kind that just sort of happen for no obvious reason. Maybe something to do with pressure in the blood vessels. Next. Shortness of breath. Like feeling winded even when you haven't really done anything strenuous. That feels like it would point to the heart working too hard, right? Definitely chest pain. That feels like a big one. A tight feeling or heavy, like something's pressing down on your chest. Always sounds serious. What about eyes? I guess vision problems, blurry vision. Or maybe seeing double. Pressure affecting the eyes seems logical. And just overall. Fatigue. Feeling way more tired than usual. Like your energy is just gone, but you don't know why. So, okay, that's 7. I put them out there now. Let's see how close I actually got. And maybe more importantly, why these symptoms, or the fact that they're often missing, matters so much.
That's a really solid list, actually. It touches on a lot of the common perceptions. And we'll definitely dig into each one. But maybe before we give you a grade, let's just zoom out for a second. The big picture here. Just being able to spot any sign of hypertension, or even just knowing it could be there, lurking, that can literally prevent devastating outcomes. Think about this. Nationally, catching it early, it's been shown to cut heart attack rates by 15%. 15%, which also saves something like $5 billion in healthcare costs. That's according to Health Affairs. That's the power of just being aware. And that's exactly why regular blood pressure checks a recommendation is usually annually for adults are just so incredibly important. They actually catch about 80% of cases before complications really set in. That's a key stat from the American Heart Association, because if you don't address it, hypertension doubles your risk of heart disease, and it triples your risk of stroke. Triples. Just last year alone, over 500,000 strokes were directly tied to untreated high blood pressure. It's huge. And this isn't just numbers, right? It's real people. We see stories all the time on social media, people sharing things like, my headaches. Turned out it was hypertension. Checkup saved my heart. Waiting too long, a delayed diagnosis. Sadly, it increases mortality risk by 20%. And that impacts so many of those 116 million Americans living with this.
Wow, okay, hearing it laid out like that, it really drives home the stakes. It's serious. But here's the part that still kind of baffles me. If it's that serious, Why is it so darn hard to spot? Why the disguise?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it really gets to the core of why hypertension is so dangerous. Like I mentioned, the Mayo Clinic points out that 70% of people, they're totally asymptomatic, they feel perfectly fine, no clue, until bam, a major problem hits. So yeah, for most people, there's just no warning flare. And then even when symptoms do show up, they're often really vague. They feel like other things, like stress or just being tired. And that unfortunately leads to misdiagnosis in about half 50% of the cases where there are symptoms. That's from a study in the Journal of Hypertension. Take headaches, your first guess. Yeah, they can be a symptom. About 20% of severe cases have them, but how often do we just brush off a headache as, tension or stress?
All the time.
Exactly. Or dizziness. That affects maybe 15% of patients. But again, easy to blame it on being dehydrated or tired or something else entirely. The AHA highlights how common this is. And severity plays a part too. Mild cases, usually no symptoms at all. Even severe hypertension, we're talking really high numbers, like 180 over 120. Only about 30% of those people actually notice distinct signs. It just hammers home why those regular checkups are our best bet, especially knowing that 1 in 3 adults right now has hypertension and doesn't even know it.
1 in 3. Wow. Okay, that makes the challenge even trickier than I thought. All right, so bearing all that in mind, let's go back to my list. My 7 guesses. How did I actually do comparing against the experts like the CDC, AHA, Mayo Clinic? First up was headaches, those frequent pounding ones, especially in the morning.
Yeah, you're spot on there. Morning headaches, often felt in the back of the head, sometimes called occipital headaches. They are indeed a symptom. Affects about 20% of severe cases.
Nice. Okay, 1 point for me. Next, dizziness, feeling lightheaded, woozy.
Correct again.
Yeah.
Yep. Lightheadedness, maybe even vertigo. About 15% of patients report that, especially older adults.
All right. Number 3 was nosebleeds, random, unexplained ones.
Okay, partial credit for that one. They are linked, definitely. But they're actually pretty rare, only about 5% of severe cases. So not super common, but a possible sign, yeah.
Okay, partial credit, I'll take it. Then I had shortness of breath, feeling winded without really doing much.
That's accurate. Affects maybe 10% of people in more advanced stages, and it's usually because of the strain high blood pressure puts on the heart, just like you thought.
Good, good. Number 5, chest pain, that tight, heavy feeling.
Absolutely right, that angina-like pain, that heavy, tight feeling. Seen in about 10% of cases, definitely a sign the heart is under stress.
Okay. 6th was vision problems, like blurry or double vision.
On point again, blurred vision, double vision, affects about 10% too. And it's an important one because it can signal damage to the retina from that high pressure.
And my last guess, number 7, fatigue, just feeling unusually wiped out.
Another good one. Yeah, unexplained tiredness or fatigue. It hits about 15% of people with hypertension. And it's one of those really general symptoms that's so easy to overlook, right?
Wow, okay. So I actually touched on all 7 of my guesses in some way. That feels pretty good, honestly, considering how sneaky this thing is. But
Yeah.
what did I miss? What are the big ones that just weren't on my radar at all?
You actually did really well. Seriously, your list covers a lot of the most common reasons people with symptoms might see a doctor. But yeah, there are a couple of major ones often overlooked, partly because they can be subtle or intermittent. First is irregular heartbeat. This affects about 10% of patients. They might feel it as palpitations, like their heart is skipping a beat or fluttering. And the other big one, less common but very serious, is confusion. This is usually only seen in about 5% of cases. Typically during a hypertensive crisis, that's when blood pressure is extremely high and dangerous.
Irregular heartbeat and confusion. Wow. Okay, yeah, those definitely weren't the first things I thought of, or the second or third. It really just highlights how deceptive this condition can be. So I got 7 out of 9 major potential symptoms. Not bad, but a good reminder that, there's always more to learn about how our bodies signal problems.
Exactly. And it just reinforces why talking about this is so important. Because ignoring hypertension, letting it go unchecked, it can lead to really severe life-changing problems. We already touched on some risks, but let's be clear. It doubles your risk of heart disease. Over 400,000 cases just last year linked to it. It triples your risk of stroke. 500,000 strokes a year, roughly. For about 1 in 5 patients, it can lead down the right to kidney failure. Tens of thousands of cases every year. There's also a higher risk for dangerous aneurysms. And terribly, vision loss. That hypertensive retinopathy, damage to the eye's blood vessels, it blinds thousands every year. We see these warnings play out in real life, like that social media post, "My stroke came from ignored hypertension, check your BP." It's a stark reminder. And we also know certain groups really need to be extra careful. People over 45, those dealing with obesity, anyone with a family history, their outcomes tend to be significantly worse if it's not managed.
That list is just
Yeah, yeah,
insane.
it's really sobering. Makes you want to run out and get checked right now. So, okay, beyond just everyone being generally aware, who specifically should be like hypervigilant? Are there groups that really, really need to pay extra close attention?
That's a really important point about, personal risk factors. Because while hypertension can hit anyone at any age, some groups are definitely more vulnerable. For example, once you get over 45, the prevalence jumps way up to about 60%. If an individual is living with obesity, their risk is about 50% higher. That's significant. Family history is the big one, too. If one of your parents has hypertension, your own risk goes up by about 30%. And unfortunately, there are disparities. Minority groups often bear a heavier burden. Black Americans, for instance, face a prevalence rate around 55%. But here's the flip side, the empowering part. Simple lifestyle changes. Things like cutting back on salt, getting regular exercise. They can slash your risk by around 40%. That's huge. It really reinforces that message we keep seeing. Monitor your BP. It's a lifesaver. It truly can be. Okay, let's make this even more real. You mentioned stories. How about an example? Our sources highlighted a case, right? A 50-year-old accountant. He was getting frequent headaches, feeling really tired all the time, but like so many of us would, he just chalked it up to stress from work. Busy job, long hours. But thankfully, he went for a routine checkup, just a standard physical, and boom, his blood pressure was really high, like 160 over 100, danger zone, the key part. Because they caught it, he got on medication, made some diet changes, and likely prevented a stroke. It's just such a perfect illustration of how these checkups aren't just routine. They can literally catch a silent threat before it turns into a catastrophe.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating, really, is seeing how that kind of individual story, that personal vigilance, scales up. It has a massive impact on society as a whole. You mentioned the cost savings earlier. Cutting strokes by 15% in the U.S. saved an estimated $4 billion just in 2024. That's incredible. Public screening campaigns, getting out there into communities, they've reached millions of people and significantly boosted the number of folks getting checked. And education is key too. Remember how half of symptomatic cases get misdiagnosed? Well, the more people understand the potential signs, even the vague ones, the more likely they are to seek help sooner. That misdiagnosis rate drops with awareness. Globally, it's a huge issue. 1.4 billion people have hypertension. But the WHO estimates nearly a third of the serious complications are preventable. Preventable. We're even seeing calls now, on social media and elsewhere, pushing for more blood pressure education in schools. Get the knowledge out there early. Because here in the US, with literally 1 out of every 2 adults affected, just raising awareness, getting more people diagnosed and treated, it could prevent a quarter of all complications. That could save maybe $20 billion by 2030. The power of knowing and acting is just immense for individuals and for all of us collectively.
Man, this whole deep dive, this challenge, it's been incredibly eye-opening. My guess is at the start, headaches, dizziness, nosebleeds, shortness of breath, chest pain, vision issues, fatigue. Yeah, they covered a lot of the potential signs people might actually notice. But it also really drove home just how silent this condition usually is and reminded me about those sneakier ones like irregular heartbeat and confusion, things I just didn't connect. Catching it early isn't just a good idea. It's absolutely vital for the, 116 million Americans dealing with this. It could literally prevent hundreds of thousands of strokes every year. That message sums it perfectly. No hypertension, protect your heart. So yeah, regular checkups, being vigilant is crucial for everyone. And remember, check out Mind Expansion Daily for more deep dives just like this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there. If you found this useful today, maybe buy us that coffee. The link's in the description. Every little bit helps. And hey, we challenge you. Leave a comment below. Do you agree with our take on this? Disagree? Let us know. And please, share your own stories if you feel comfortable. And tell us where you're listening from. We really want to see Mind Expansion Daily reach every corner of the globe.
This whole conversation really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? In a world where we're constantly bombarded with minor aches, pains, feelings of stress, things that are so easy to just dismiss, how do we actually cultivate that mindset, that proactive awareness to really listen to our bodies, even when the warning signs are just whispers, especially when it's a silent killer doing the whispering, not shouting? Definitely something to think about. And stay tuned, because in our next deep dive, we're going to explore just that. Actionable strategies for actually managing high blood pressure, turning that whisper into something you can control.